Maybe a bigger task for social workers at end of life would be working with people to attach them to a purpose that'll motivate them to continue living until they die. And I put this other point on here, which is we need devotion to something more than ourselves, because without that, we only have our desires to guide us, and at end of life, those desires are fleeting. And so this goes right back to the question when my students tell me, no, the goal of palliative care is a good death. And I say, absolutely not, it's a good life. And so I think the goal of palliative care should be, what are we doing to attach people to that life and figure out what is life to them and what is living to them. Bill Thomas, he wrote about an effective antidote to helplessness and hopelessness is reconnecting patients with something that might provide them continued purpose and meaning. And so I think this all comes into the role that social work can play. So I'm going to give you some examples of legacy work. Legacy work, again, it's that idea of working with families to have them leave behind something that's important for their loved ones. So I'll go through a few, and again, this can be an open conversation. I've learned so much coming to conferences and hearing from other people with different ideas of what they do for legacy pieces, but here are some really interesting ones that I've used personally, and I've had some pretty incredible results from it. There's a ceramic program, so basically it's a franchise. I'm sure they have them up around this area too. The idea is they provide hospice with ceramics, so bowls, plates, Christmas bulbs, things like that. Families can paint them. They can put handprints on them, lip prints, they can put thumbprints. They do all these really great things, and then we can get it glazed in a kiln and it becomes a piece the family gets to keep. And I know the concept behind that might sound sad, but to see the joy it brings families when they're doing it is incredible, especially when you have, a parent with a young child or a grandparent with their grandchildren, and they're all covered in paint, and they got kiss marks all over their face, and they have all these bowls and stuff. It's incredible. And it's a piece that the family is going to have for the rest of their life. So that's a very important one that we use. Letters or instructions, it seems kind of, P.S. I love you, but the instruction thing is really neat. I was working with a gentleman and he was like, oh my God, when I die, my wife's never gonna change the clock on anything in this house. And, or she'll never know how to get that pilot light on the furnace going again. And he was joking about it, but it was really a cause for a lot of his anxiety, was worrying about his wife. So I said, well, what if we just made an instruction manual and you have everything you're worried about? Let's spend some time over the next, few weeks. Let's write this instruction manual for your wife. And sure, okay, I'll do it. So he ended up writing this instruction manual. So when I think of the anxiety he was probably experiencing, if I would have said, oh, you're right, that I understand that's why you're feeling worried. Have you tried deep breathing? Oh, what usually helps you when you feel anxious? Have you watched Family Guy? So you can, but then you think of that, but then you think of the idea of why don't we make an instruction book that he's going to have purpose, he's going to have meaning, he's going to work on this. And what do you think is going to resolve the anxiety more? His deep breathing when he's feeling anxious or doing something like this?